The land doesn't depreciate, according to the IRS. You know, the land never goes away. It doesn't fall to the ground. It's always there. So that is not, you cannot depreciate the land. So you need to divide these up, and there's basically, I used to always say 3 ways to do it, but I'm really going to say there's 4, okay? So one is you can have an appraisal. The other is you can look at the tax records because the tax assessor divides them, okay? And the other way is your insurance company will also divide that because remember, they're not going to insure the land. They only insure the improvement. The improvement could burn down. It could be flooded if you have flood insurance. So that's the part they insure. They don't insure the land because the land is pretty much always there unless there's a landslide. Okay, what's the 4th way? Well, the 4th way is the one I just made up right now. Okay, and from this next exercise we're going to do, which is the cost per square foot exercise, which is like super mega simple. They're not all this simple, so it gets a little harder as we go. You can pretty much tell whether there's any land cost in there at all or not. Now, the IRS is always going to allocate some land costs. They're not going to say the land's worth nothing, even though you as the investor may technically be getting free land. Here's why. Because the cost to build a house almost anywhere in the US is going to be about maybe, give or take, $70 per square foot for a pretty basic house, okay? So if you are paying less than $70 per square foot, I would argue, although it's, you know, kind of depends how you look at it, frankly, that your land is essentially free. And in most of these properties, it'll be somewhere around this 80-20 ratio for these cheap properties. If it's an expensive property in California, say it's not a $100,000 property, this is a $100,000 total cost, okay? $100,000 and $20,000 is land. But say it's a $1 million property and it's in California. Well, what do you think the land to improvement ratio is going to be? That one's 80-20 LTI ratio, okay? Land to improvement, an acronym I made up because, you know, I got it from LTV, loan to value ratio. This is land to improvement ratio. So what do you think it's going to be on a $1 million property here in San Diego? Okay, so I would say it depends, okay, of course, because not everything in San Diego is going to be the same, but I'd say it's even worse than all you guys say, or better, depending on how you look at it. I'd say it's probably like 80% land and 20% improvement. And when I talk about the Hartman Risk Evaluator concept, and we can cover that a little bit tomorrow if you want, that took me 19 years to discover, it really, you know, that's pretty much the way my house penciled out, the one I use in that example. That at the peak of the market was worth $1.3 million. It's the last house I lived in before I moved out of California 4 years ago, and then of course moved back recently. And that's about what it was. It was about 80% land. Okay, so high land value markets are risky markets, and they offer much less in the way of depreciation also, because there's not much value allocated toward the structure. So can you offset the cash flow by the depreciation deduction? And the answer is I don't know, because it depends how much positive cash flow you have and how much depreciation you have, so you just have to do the math. In this example, though, if you probably could, because say, for example, the positive cash flow was $250 a month, which would be about somewhere in the ballpark for this type of property, fully leveraged, you know, at 80-20 or 75-25, and $3,000 per year almost, that's about even.
242.
Yeah, okay. So there you go. Yeah, and that's kind of like our typical deal. So in that case, yeah, you'd be about a wash. Neutral tax situation. On an income property, it's not like you're thinking of it like a personal residence. You're thinking, well, on a personal residence, I can deduct my interest on my mortgage. But on an income property, it's looked at just like a profit and loss statement. If you have $1,000 income, what are your expenses against the income? If you have positive cash flow, there's your tax. They don't itemize it, so far as I know, as to what the expense is. It's just a P&L.